You take donor money and you serve donors. You guys are all crooks. Vinny, do you think that the donor money is? Do you agree with Dan? Do you think Dan? Do you agree with Dan that the donor money is irrelevant? They don't serve the donors at all.
On Wednesday's installment of Piers Morgan Uncensored, our very own Cenk Uygur went at it with Representative Dan Crenshaw over the issues of populism and the establishment. But as you're about to see in a surprising twist, the other Republican on the panel joined forces with Cenk. We'll get to that shortly, but first we need to provide some context. Early on the panel, Cenk made this prediction.
Now, when it comes to Trump, look, guys, let's all hope that I'm wrong, but my guess is you're all going to be deeply disappointed. He's gonna rob the place blind. Elon's gonna rob the place blind. They're not real populists. They're gonna give corporate tax cuts. They're gonna do all the things that Democrats do. They're just gonna be more clever about it. Their number one priority is gonna be giant corporate tax cuts and corporate deregulation.
A little later, Crenshaw responded by slamming the ideology of populism and stating that there is no such thing as a Republican establishment. Take a look.
You know, it was said before, he's a fake populist. Well, I hope so, because populism is crap. I mean, populism is the art of telling you what you want to hear instead of the truth.
Dan is establishment. Dan is establishment Republican. He hates the Trump.
Whatever that means.
So he wanted to start more wars. So he's the least happy on this entire panel. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
The Democrat Party does indeed have an establishment, but you cannot tell me there's an establishment in the Republican Party. There simply isn't. There hasn't been for a very long time. And yes, Donald Trump is going to do things that are pro-growth because populist tendencies tend to be anti-growth. They tend to be anti-free market. And that's bad for your children and your children's children.
Now, Cenk responded by explaining what the Republican establishment is, but Crenshaw still kept pushing back and even admitted that he thinks there should be no taxes for corporations. Take a look.
Who's the establishment Republicans?
No Democrat agrees on that.
Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's an establishment Republican. Almost all the Republican senators are establishment Republicans. And by the way, Nancy Pelosi is an establishment Democrat. Joe Biden is. What it means is you take donor money and you serve donors. You guys are all crooks. So you notice what Dan said? He said, oh, we're going to do a I think Trump is smart enough to do pro-growth. You know what that means? It means tax cuts for the rich that are all Dan's donors. And they're Kamala Harris's donors.
When you say you're all
not a left-right issue.
No, let me just say something.
Corporate tax cuts, aren't you?
Cenk, when you say you guys,
I want Dan on the record.
Hang on, Cenk. When you say Cenk, you guys are all.
I told you.
Hang on.
Now, to prove his point, Cenk asked Vincent Oshana of the Patrick Bet David podcast, a Republican, to weigh in on the matter. Take a look.
Vinny, do you think that the donor money is? Do you agree with Dan? Do you think Dan? Do you agree with Dan that the donor money is irrelevant? They don't serve the donors at all. There are no establishment Republicans. We're all making it up.
Well, Dan, just to clarify, I am a United States Air Force veteran as well, so I didn't serve in combat, but I am a veteran. So my brother, my sister. But that's besides the point. And I do agree with Cenk. You cannot say that there's no establishment. There's establishment left and there's establishment right. And for all these people taking donor money, you are the establishment. Donald Trump is a beast because he didn't need anybody's money.
So let's take a look at the data. According to Open Secrets, over the course of his career in federal politics from 2017 until now, Crenshaw has taken huge amounts of money from individuals and PACs in the following industries. Specifically, almost 1.5 million from the real estate and securities and investment industry, over 1.2 million from the oil and gas industry, over 650,000 from health professionals, and just over 300,000 from the gun rights industry. Crenshaw is so corrupt that even Fox News called him out after his stock portfolio beat the market in 2023. The congressman has stated that politicians should be allowed to trade stocks.
So look, guys, I love that debate. That was terrific, except that, my God, I gotta lose some weight. Anyway, okay, but the reason that I liked it the most is, okay, me and Crenshaw can have a debate and I can kick his ass. That was easy. And he looks ridiculous when he says, no, the donors don't have an effect. There is no establishment. Sure, okay. But to me, the most interesting part of that was a left-wing populist like myself and a right-wing populist like Vinny agreeing against an establishment Republican. So you're breaking the left-right paradigm there. And for all my life, people are like, oh, there's the left and the right, and that's all there is, etc. No, now there's a populist establishment spectrum. And populist left and populist right can agree on some things, definitely not all things, but on some things and go, yeah, we hate the corruption, we hate the donor class. So, because my whole life, the two Republicans or the two right-wingers on the panel would have always agreed against the two left-wingers. But for the first time, we're doing something different. And Vinny, to his credit, and a lot of right-wing populists to their credit, actually hate corruption and actually hate the establishment. So that's an incredible relief to me. So I think we're in a new era of politics. What are the ramifications of that? We don't know, and we'll find out as we proceed here. And can we really have a coalition against corruption? They divide us on these social issues so effectively that we might not be able to. But I would love it. That's why I've got a plank for a populist revolt on tyt.com, and I hope you guys all sign it, and we'll have the link in the description box. But Jules, what'd you think?
First of all, I love seeing you on Piers Morgan. I like whenever it pops up on my feed, I'll watch it. You are loud, you're making a lot of good points, and that is a bad program in general, so it's nice to see you there. But I also, in watching that clip, Crenshaw said something really interesting, which is that populist positions aren't good for the economy, which is true. And it's true in a way that really reflects what Republicans and what establishment Democrats really focus on. Things that are good for the economy are traditionally considered things that are good for the stock market, right? It's things where, it raises the net worth of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos by another $100 billion. But they're things that are terrible for the worker. Low wages are great for the stock market. Things like cutting unions, cutting workers' rights, great for the stock market. It lets the people at the very top who own the overwhelming majority of stocks make more money. And it doesn't trickle down, we know this. So it's always interesting to me when they say something that's like patently true, which is, populist positions that are good for the middle class, good for the average worker, good for salaries, good for, the cost of things. Yeah, those are populist beliefs that do mean that, sure, Elon and Bezos will make a little bit less money, but they're never framed that way. And that's a little bit frustrating. But outside of that, Cenk, I do really like your position here. Obviously the establishment class is incredibly corrupt. They have one goal, which is to keep the money flowing, keep the economy top heavy, make sure that, quote unquote, rising tide raises all boats. It's not true. A lot of people drown. But it's at least nice to see you there pushing back.
Yeah, I think you caught him say it, but he kind of muttered it under his breath, and no one else seems to care. But no, there shouldn't be corporate taxes. I think it's really interesting to see his trajectory. Also, when he entered Congress in, I guess 2017, 2018, 2019. What he looked like, how he modeled himself, how he positioned himself. He was like kind of the new crop of conservatives, like riding the Trump wave. He was kind of the outsider. He would like speak up on things. He tried to position himself as like one of the more unique, I wouldn't say like total like Tea Party and Freedom Caucus guys, but he was just like a little bit of an outsider, and he reveled in that brand. And then he just vanished. What's he been doing? Selling you all out. Trading stocks on insider information. Clearly, if he's beating the market so well, saying no corporate taxes. There's no establishment. He is part of the game now. He ran on this wave of like Trump wave populism to get into Congress, and now he's abandoned it. Like the guy, I don't know how he looks himself in the eye in the mirror at night and sleeps well. Just like the guy is a total fraud from where he was a couple years ago. I'm not saying I thought he was a man of character, but you rode that wave of Trump populism. Now you can't even recognize it.
Yeah. So the last couple of things here. Sometimes when I agree with Vinny, people on the left will get mad at me. Do you know about Vinny's other positions? He's crazy and stuff. Yeah, I do, brother. And so that's on those things. I think Vinny is crazy, and he thinks I'm crazy. But when we agree on something, can we take the win? Let's take the win, right? And I think I've been waiting my whole life for the right wing to turn around and say, yeah, money in politics is a problem, right? I formed Wolfpack 13 years ago and said, it's nonpartisan. Come on, right wingers, come on in. You guys want to drain the swamp? I mean, that hadn't even started yet at the time, right? But I know that they've got instincts to want to fight against corruption. Come on, let's go fight corruption together. And finally, they're showing up and saying, yeah, let's go. And in their mind, of course, they think we're showing up late. They don't know that Young Turks has been against this for the whole 22 years. Go back and, good news, our videos are online. You can go back and see us talking about this 20 years ago, right? So, but it doesn't matter who came first. We have agreement. And so, man, I hope we can build on that. And I've been waiting a quarter century for a right-wing populist and a left-wing populist to join up forces against an establishment politician, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. And I don't think that it's a little thing that a guy like Vinny and probably most of MAGA watching said, the left-winger is right and the Republican is wrong. That means that we're beginning to have open minds, and that's the most important thing of all.
But I think that underscores, like, to go back to some, post 2024 autopsy conversations. Let's stick to the economic stuff. Like, she's been widely criticized for not having a sufficient economic policy. Trump recognizes that, exploits it. He's won twice now, 3 attempts. The only time they beat him, the Democrats beat him, was when Biden incorporated some economic populist rhetoric and policies, because he worked with Bernie and a lot of Bernie's allies to help shape that part of his platform. There's clearly a bipartisan demand for it. And when people say, oh, I'm worried about the economy, they're not worried about the S&P. They're not worried about the aggregate stats like inflation and job numbers. They're worried about how easy it is or how difficult it is to pay their bills. They want to be able to make ends meet. And when you have someone like Bernie who is speaking to that, and Trump, I think, hollowly speaks to that, that's what leads to success. And we've seen it cycle after cycle now. So I think what you're seeing in that agreement is that, look, if someone were to do it and be serious about it at the national level for Democrats, there's an opportunity there. And if they continue to do it and then deliver on it, you're talking long-term success. No Democrat seems to be willing to do it because they would offend their donors.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? As you were saying that, Jordan, I just realized somebody else has an opportunity to do it, and his name is Donald J. Trump. Now, is he going to do it? Historically, no. He's loved corruption. So I can tell you 1,000 stories, let alone that his son-in-law got $2 billion from the Saudis once they left. The golf tournaments got all sent over to Trump's properties. But that's just like the tip of the iceberg and all the different things that he's done. And all those corporate tax cuts also helped Donald Trump, and it saved him an enormous amount of money. I can go on and on and on. But it's a new day in America, and he's got a second chance. So if he really meant drain the swamp and populist right and MAGA, you should ask him to do this. We ask our politicians to do it all the time. We get into huge fights with our politicians because we think they're corrupt and hooked on the donor money. Do you have the principles to hold your guy accountable and say, Trump, you said drain the swamp. You know what you could do? And by the way, this was RFK Jr.'s plank. You should check out his anti-corruption plank. Let's do a convention where we bring the states together, go around Washington, and propose an amendment. It's totally doable. It's such a conservative-friendly idea. Gives the states more power. It goes around Washington. You don't need any of those corrupt politicians. It's in the Constitution. So if you want to know more about it, go to wolf-pack.com. And so we go and get a convention, and all it does is propose an amendment. And then the red states and the blue states have to agree, because in order for an amendment to pass, it's got to have 3/4 of the states agree. Imagine if Donald Trump did that. If he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do the convention. All right, everybody go vote for it, etc. I'd give him all the credit in the world because I don't care who gets money out of politics. I just want it out, okay? And if he does the right, and if you're a Democrat and you're upset at me, oh my God, if he did something spectacular like that and got the corruption that we hate out of politics, you should still hate him? Well, then I think you've lost your mind. Okay, the whole point of supporting a politician or being against a politician is to get them to do the right thing. And so, look, my guess is he won't go anywhere near that. He'll probably rob the place blind, and MAGA will probably applaud. But hey, I'm not MAGA, so now we get to find out who MAGA is. Are they principled? Will they actually fight against corruption? And will they hold their own accountable? But so far, give any credit, 1-0 on yes being principled and fighting against a Republican.
There's one thing that has me really worried though. So I'm with you. I think 99% of me thinks Trump won't do anything different. He'll still be corrupt. He'll still center the wealthy and corporations. There is no populist overhaul. Today, however, I saw a report that Trump is going to, or we'll see if it actually happens, but it was announced he's planning to ban federal regulators and federal employees from taking jobs in the industries with which they used to regulate, which is a big.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's like part of me, like that one part. It's like, ooh, if he does that, that's like really worrying, because if they recognize, and just from a purely cynical, clearly it's not, he's not doing it out of like compassion or altruism. If they go in that cynical into the second term, and that's how they start. Look, the outcome is good, of course, but then they continue to build on that. My fear is they just take over, have long-term success because they were the only ones who delivered on it. But then with that comes the scapegoating of immigrants, comes all these attacks on marginalized communities as justifications for because the right-wing populism, the enemy is always the other. Rather than a left-wing populism like Bernie is, we're all in this together, there's enough for everybody. That's my type of populism. Even though the outcome on this I think is good, I'm really worried just to see how cynical they are about these kinds of policies when he takes office.
Okay, you're forcing me to say one more thing, Jordan, which is that, but we got to take the win. Him banning
on this, yes,
yeah,
of course.
on that the issue you just said.
If he does it,
like if he does it, that's a terrific thing. I'm not. Don't do this where hey, he did something really good, but it could lead him to doing something bad later. I'll worry about that when I get there, and I'll fight that when we get there, right? But take the win. And so, look, if he has nothing to lose, because he's not gonna, I hope he's not gonna run again. And if he actually ended corruption and got big money out of politics, do you have any idea how popular he would be? And here's one thing that Donald Trump likes, being popular. So Trump and MAGA, I'm handing you a gift. You do that and he'll leave the most popular president you've ever seen. Okay, let's see if he's got it in him.
Man, if wishing made it so, I don't have any faith in him doing anything good or fighting corruption or shutting down anybody who's going to make billions of dollars on the backs of exploited people. Like it would be nice, but he has a mandate both objectively and subjectively to himself. He's like a god king now. So I don't think he's going to be doing anything to try to like win a re-election or even help Republicans in the long term. He only cares about himself. He got what he wanted. He's not, he doesn't have to keep any of his promises. This is it. This is his last run. He's just going to make as much money as possible for himself, for the people around him, and for the worst dregs of society that, the billionaire class, who will profit off of this. And I don't think there's anything deeper other than explicitly harming the most marginalized people. Other than that, I have no hope.
Jules, that has been his track record, but the only people who could decide is not us. We lost. Trump and MAGA are going to decide what they do, and then we're going to judge them based on it. And if it turns out they do the right thing and they end corruption, I'm going to give them every piece of credit there is in the world. And if they don't, and they do what you're worried about, which is way more likely, then we'll kick their ass on it. And we'll hold them accountable because we're honest.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.